Hi, I'm Caroline.
And I'm Adrienne.
And this is Scandal Sheets. Welcome to Scandal Sheets, the podcast that explores the scandals of history along with the people and places associated with it. I am your host, Caroline.
And I'm host, Adrienne.
Good for us. Why do I feel like it's been forever since?
It has been forever because I have been gone. And then last time I was sick, so I was like walking around trying to just keep my airways clear and drinking some really random mini bottles that I had from Italy. And
yes, the fire.
Like in my fire of Etna, which was maybe the worst thing I've ever put in my mouth.
Well, I can't imagine whose idea it was to name a liquor the Fire of Mount Etna.
It was terrible.
It kind of sounds like VD to me.
It wasn't. Oh my God, I never thought of that. You're dirty. Yes, accurate. No, I was just kind of looking for something alcoholic that would maybe clear
your passages
or something.
Yeah,
and it did.
So
I wouldn't buy that again.
Happily, we are both here. We're well. Yeah, good health.
Most of us.
Yeah. Let's talk scandal.
Let's talk scandals.
Yes. So today we are going to be discussing Louis Kahn, who is considered one of the great modern architects of the world.
Yeah.
He was a very interesting individual.
He was.
Very mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike his contemporary Frank Lloyd Wright, he managed to keep his private life out of the papers.
Yeah, so that's one of the other things I read, that there were 3 decades that separated them. Frank Lloyd Wright was born 30 years before Louis Kahn. And Louis Kahn died in the 70s, and Frank Lloyd Wright died in, the late 50s, I think.
Yes.
So 73 is when Kahn died. But it is interesting, the architecture part that I'm discussing, I don't really go into the other architects that were practicing during his time, but it is interesting to note that, none of these guys, mostly guys, were designing in a bubble, and they all knew of each other,
yeah.
And they knew each other, and I think that's important to note when whenever we talk about these people. If we don't say what's going on in the architecture world, it's worth mentioning that, hey, some of these people were doing very different things at the same time, but some of them there are some parallels in, certainly in modernism, but they all kind of took their own path. But I do like knowing that, oh, hey, from this period to this period, they coexist. They were in the
same.
They were doing
sphere.
it. They were all doing amazing things.
And so the big scandal for Kahn was that he had 3 different families.
Right.
Pretty much all at the same time.
Yeah.
And he, as I said, very mysterious. And because of that, the truth didn't really come out until 2003.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Basically, his son from one of his relationships,
Nathaniel,
yeah, Kahn, came out and did a documentary that was...
Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, very well done. It's called My Architect.
Yeah.
And we took a lot of the information I took a lot of the information.
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't really. But...
that I'm going to impart today.
I have a few quotes from it, but not...
a lot of information.
Yeah, the information was from some books that I have.
So I was watching the documentary, and Tim was in the room, and he was asking me what was going on with this episode, and I told him, I was like, yeah, this guy had 3 families all at the same time. And Tim goes, that sounds stressful.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then children by all these women, and then he was able to keep them separate.
He's a lot like, he reminded me a lot of Don Draper from Mad Men.
Oh, that's funny.
And not as self-assured and cocky, but
sure.
He had a quieter presence. He was quirky.
He did.
I love like watching. There's actually video footage of him because we're finally down into that time period, and if I can repost some, I probably will on our Facebook. Just kind of, I don't know, we're just very quirky. So yeah. Anyway,
you know more than I'm okay.
But this week I want to start things out a little differently. Normally I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to going down the timeline, but I'm going to start at the end.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. The end is the beginning.
Did you know about this book?
Is the end. I did. I mean, I read several.
Is that why you decided to do the end first?
I just think it
because the book
starts at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So this book is excellent, and I'll refer to it as well, but it's called You Say to Brick, and there's a reason that the title is a fragment.
Right.
Did you read the Brick conversation?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I really want to read the Brick conversation, which now I don't know where it is, but it's something like you say to Brick, is it in the beginning? You say to Brick, Brick, what would you like to be? And Brick says, I like an arch. Here it is. What do you want, Brick? Brick says to you, I like an arch. If you say to Brick, arches are expensive, and I can use a concrete lintel over an opening. What do you think of that, Brick? Brick says, I like an arch. And I love that little conversation, and it's apparent when you...
And it actually was videotaped.
That was videotaped?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
He was teaching one of his classes at University of Pennsylvania when he said all that. So
it's apparent when you visit a con building that the materials are all as they are. They are all as they want to be, and I love that. And the architects that Nathaniel Kahn spoke to when he did his documentary all basically said the same thing, that Kahn was that his dad was a wonder. But we were inspired to discuss modern architect this week. I mean, I just love modernism in general, but mostly we were inspired thanks to George Smart, who is the founder and executive director of North Carolina Modernist Houses and U.S. Modernist. And if you're not familiar, this is an incredible organization that offers extensive archives online on modernist architecture, information about modernist architects, and he has an excellent podcast called U.S. Modernist Radio. George gets to talk to these really, really cool people, but he got Nathaniel on the podcast, and they talked about the documentary My Architect, about the life and work of Nathaniel's dad. And that's an early episode. It's episode 15. And I think that the movie was, 2003.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the film My Architect, you should for sure watch it. Or it's not actually a bad one to have in your library, because you can kind of just take it out, and it's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful to listen to if you're doing something else. Because Nathaniel Kahn gets to sit down with these giants of modern architecture.
Philip Johnson,
I.M. Pei. Yeah. And one scene in particular has stuck with me. And I saw it, I think, shortly after it came out. And then I have been watching it recently. Obviously, I had it on yesterday. I didn't get through the whole thing, but my favorite scene is when Nathaniel rollerblades on the main plaza at the Salk Institute in La Jolla, California, and he, in the background, so it's just like sort of a long shot of, his dad's buildings and him rollerblading, and they play the song Long May You Roam. Mm-hmm. I love, oh my God, like that is just, it's so wonderful. And it made me want to rollerblade at the Salk Institute. But so he does this after he talks with this guy who is the project manager for the Salk, and the man's name is Jack McAllister. Obviously, as of 2003, he was still alive. So 15 years later, I'm not sure. He was an older gentleman then. But when Kahn hired him in I guess it was the 60s to work on the salt. He was only 25. And Jack said that Kahn had enormous trust in young people and entrusted him with the checkbook and to like pay all the subs and stuff, which was crazy. And he said, and Jack McAllister said he decided to grow a beard to look older because he was like 25 and apparently looked like that or younger. And, you know, he wanted to not look his age. So at the beginning of the movie, Nathaniel sits down with Philip Johnson. And I mean, I don't know how many of you all are students of architecture, but Philip Johnson was a pretty big deal. And they met at his house. I think they met in New Canaan, Connecticut, the Glass House, right? Yeah. So he's sitting down with Philip Johnson, right? This little wrinkled little old man with like these super thick glasses and black frame. He just looks like an architect, right?
Right. Notice that architects seem to favor the big round glasses in this documentary.
They do. So the Glass House, right, New Canaan, Connecticut, and it's literally like, I mean, look it up, but it's just sort of this idyllic. It looks like a pavilion. It looks like you can just see through it, but it's a glass box. So I've not ever been there, but very famous Philip Johnson work that you can look up. Nathaniel sits down with Johnson, and Johnson said that Kahn was the most beloved architect of our time. Nathaniel, being Kahn's son, probably thought, I'm filming. I'm sure this guy, you know, may or may not have a beef. He's just trying to say something really nice, but like level of truth when you're being filmed and you're talking to somebody's son. But Johnson continues, think about it. Frank Lloyd Wright was too cantankerous to love. Mies van der Rohe, you couldn't talk to at all. And I love that he just throws these names out. Corbusier was mean, but Lou, there was a man. I just love that.
So yeah, that's a pretty significant introduction into our...
Sorry, it was worth it.
Yeah, fair enough. So, as I said at the beginning, we're going to start at the end, because the end is the beginning. So on March 17th, 1974, the body of a disheveled man was found in the men's restroom at Penn Station in New York City. He was still alive when the police found him, but soon he died. He had white, messy hair and a scarred face.
No, I think he was dead when they found him.
I read one of them said he was still alive.
Oh, really?
I think the police officer that he interviewed in the documentary said that he was...
Oh, he was dead on arrival. When they got him to the hospital, he was dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he definitely died in the bathroom, but he was maybe still...
He was probably already dead.
Lingering.
Okay.
When they found him initially. He was wearing a dirty, wrinkled suit. He had a passport on him, but the police did not recognize his name. So there are two stories regarding the rest of the information contained on the passport. One report says that his address had been marked out, leaving the police at a loss regarding where he lived. The other report says the address was listed as 1501 Walnut Street in Philadelphia. When the local police went to the address, they found that it was an office building. The consensus was that the man was home.
It's where he worked. It was his office.
Yes. The consensus was that the man was homeless, and it appeared that way as the body laid unclaimed in the city morgue for 2 days. When someone finally recognized him as the famous architect Louis Kahn, his wife in Philadelphia was notified. 3 days after he was found at Penn Station, the New York Times ran the following article on March 20th, 1974. This was kind of part obituary, part love letter that was written by Paul Goldberger, who was the architecture review person for our reporter for New York Times. Louis Kahn, whose strong forms of brick and concrete influenced a generation of architects and made him, in the opinion of most architectural scholars, America's foremost living architect, died Sunday evening, apparently of a heart attack, in Pennsylvania Station. He was 73 years old. Among Mr. Kahn's major projects were the master plan for a second capital at Dhaka, East Pakistan, which now is the capital of Bangladesh, the Richards Medical